Good evening. The Philippine National Police appeals to Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder and alleged rapist Apollo Quiboloy to surrender before the authorities in a calm manner. In a press briefing, PNP spokesperson Colonel Jean Fajardo also appeals to Quiboloy's friends and supporters to urge the religious leader to turn himself in. Fajardo assures the supporters and friends of Quiboloy that the PNP will respect Quiboloy's human rights and the proper judicial process set by the court. On April 3, the Davao Regional Trial Court issued an arrest warrant against Quiboloy and 5 of his subordinates. On the same day, the National Bureau of Investigation and Criminal Investigation and Detection Group operatives served the arrest warrants against the 6 of them. Crescente Canada, Pauline Canada, Sylvia Camanes surrendered to authorities but were granted temporary freedom after a local court allowed them to post a bail of 80,000 pesos each at around 5 p.m. on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Jackie W. Roy and Ingrid Canada also turned themselves in on Thursday and were also granted freedom after posting bail. They were charged with violating Republic Act No. 7610 or the Anti-Child Abuse Law, specifically the provision on sexual abuse of minors and maltreatment. The palace declares Eid'l Fitr or the Feast of Ramadan on Wednesday, April 10, a holiday. Under Proclamation No. 514, President Bongbong Marcos declares April 10 as a regular holiday throughout the country in observance of Eid'l Fitr or the Feast of Ramadan. The holiday falls right next to Araw ng Kagitingan on April 9, Tuesday. According to the palace, the date was recommended by the National Commission on Muslim Filipinos. Marcos says the declaration seeks to allow the entire Filipino nation to join the Muslim community in the observance of Eid'l Fitr. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. instructed his cabinet secretaries to submit their proposal on how to alleviate the country's worsening traffic crisis, according to National Economic and Development Authority Secretary Arsenio Balisacan. Marcos held a cabinet meeting on Wednesday in Malacanang where traffic congestion and the country's economic outlook were discussed.
The President gave instruction to everyone to submit their recommendations, how their respective offices will adjust and configure their work environment. But what the President really wants is a comprehensive, holistic approach to solving the traffic problem. Hindi yung piecemeal approach, no? As has been the case all these years. No?
Balisacan cited the proper planning of the country's transport system. According to Balisacan, the government should be looking at intermodal transport system and see how they operate efficiently as a whole.
We are building now the subway. We are building other expressways, bridges connecting Bataan and Cavite, and so on. But this have to be seen in the context of all the other transport systems, including bike lanes, motorcycle lanes like that, and as well as the feeder roads, and including the location of industries, residences, and so on.
Metro Manila gained the title of the world's worst traffic in metro area, according to a traffic research firm. Motorists average a total of 25 minutes and 30 seconds for a 10-kilometer trip. An earthquake of magnitude 6 struck off the east coast of Honshu, Japan on Thursday, April 4. The European Mediterranean Seismological Center reported that the quake was at a depth of 32 kilometers. There were no immediate reports of damage or injuries after the tremor, which was also felt in Tokyo. Meanwhile, the Department of Migrant Workers said it is monitoring the developments in Japan. The department said protocols for accounting for the safety and status of overseas Filipino workers in the affected areas have been activated. The earthquake in Japan comes a day after a magnitude 7.4 quake shook Taiwan's east coast on April 3, which injured over 700 people, including 3 Filipinos. About 5,000 Filipinos were affected by the Taiwan earthquake that hit the region on Wednesday, April 3. In a press conference, Department of Migrant Workers Officer in Charge Hans Kakdak says there are 1,400 overseas Filipino workers in Hualien City, which was the epicenter of the quake, while the rest of OFWs are from the adjacent countries. Kakdak adds that the OFWs are well taken care of and that the agency has not received any request for repatriation. However, 3 Filipinos were reported to have sustained minor injuries, according to Kakdak. 2 of them have been discharged, while the other one is still confined at a hospital. Kakdak also says that some Filipino tourists were affected by the earthquake, but he could not yet provide their exact number or their current situation. The Philippines' debt is still under control, according to National Economic and Development Authority Secretary Arsenio Balisacan. Government debt hit a record high of 15.18 trillion pesos in February due to larger local borrowings and higher interest rates. Shortly after this announcement, the government announced a revised target gross domestic product of 6 to 7%, previously at 6.5 to 7.5%. When asked during a palace briefing on Thursday, April 4, if the revised target has anything to do with the record high debt, Balisacan replies in the negative.
We continue the earlier plan to get that debt as a proportion of GDP decreasing, although we have to recast it in a way that is realistic and at the same time sustainable. No? We are actually in a very good position. The rule of thumb for emerging economies is 70% of GDP is debt. No? That's a threshold. No?
Balisacan says that the government projected a lower deficit to GDP rate from 5.6% in 2024 to 3.7% by 2028. This would lead to a debt to GDP ratio of 60.3% in 2024 and 55.9% by 2028. Air passengers must brace for power interruptions at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 3 as airport authorities conduct a series of power maintenance activities at the country's international gateway. In a statement, Manila International Airport Authority says that power maintenance activities at Terminal 3 started on April 2 and may last until May 28, 2024. Miaa clarifies that the maintenance activities aim to replace deteriorated medium voltage switchgear components across 8 different electrical substations within Terminal 3. The power shutdowns will affect the terminal's open and multi-level parking, its main substation, and its substations in the south and north concourses, according to airport authorities. Miaa assures Naia passengers that standby generator sets would be available at each substation to provide uninterrupted power supply to critical airport systems and to ensure continuous processing of passengers and flights. Meanwhile, Manila International Airport Authority General Manager Eric Ines seeks the understanding of airport passengers as the agency conducts the maintenance activities. Here's the latest roundup of today's top stories. 3 Filipinos hurt from the major earthquake that struck Taiwan. PNP appeals to Pastor Apollo Quiboloy to face the charges against him and calmly surrender. And a magnitude 6 earthquake jolts east coast of Honshu, Japan. These are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, X, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.